Welcome back to Music Rankings, Reviews, and More. Today we're going to go over the discography of a more modern band. Their debut was in 2011. However, that's not the album we'll be starting off with. So all of these albums are pretty good. There's nothing weak here. So there are 5 albums, but something has to be last, which is where we'll start with their 2022, released in May of this year, cover album, My Echo, My Shadow, My Covers, and Me. Any initial thoughts? I'm just going to say it's not a weak album, but...
No, there's nothing bad about it. There's some
bad.
covers I really like.
Yeah.
For a covers
I
album,
mean-
it's definitely very good. That's for sure.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't really know because I don't usually listen to covers albums unless they're made by artists I really am into.
Right.
But like, so I don't know how good it stacks up, but like, it is a good album. There's nothing hateable about it. I mean, there's way stronger tracks here, and there's also way weaker tracks. Really, just depends. So I guess like I'll just go through this briefly, and if you guys have any thoughts, that's fine.
Okay.
The track one.
Well,
Oh yeah, you can go first.
I just want to say about the album, I like how it's like unique and original covers, and it still has the Awolnation sound, even though they're covers. Like you can definitely still
True.
hear the Awolnation
That's
sound,
true.
which is really cool.
Yeah, they didn't lose themselves, by it being covers. It still sounds like Awolnation.
Right. They only really lost their sound, in my opinion, on one album, but that's going to be higher up in the list, and we'll talk about what album that is. But they regained their sound. Don't worry. Just
I'd say more like
temporarily
they
lost.
changed their sound a bit, but yeah.
That's
Yeah.
still technically, yeah. So track one, one of the singles off of the album, "Beds Are Burning," which this might offend people. I actually prefer to the original because the original
Yeah,
just
I
doesn't do
same.
anything for me. I mean, this is just like a new energy kind of given to it, really. Like, it's
Oh,
how I
yeah.
recognize it.
Yeah, this is my favorite off the album. It's really just a great song, and the original is alright. I listened to it, didn't really think it was that interesting, but this cover is great.
Yeah. Also, another thing is at the end, like, there's like some electronics mixed in there, which definitely remind me of the Run sound that they did on Run, which is going to be higher up because obviously we're not talking about it yet.
True.
So yeah, that was cool. Definitely retains some of that sound. And then track two, "Eye in the Sky" is pretty good. I like
Pretty good, yeah.
yeah, kind of like a dreamier song because it's more like
Yeah.
like harmonizing rather than like all out rock, which is kind of like more of the first track. But I mean, this album
Right.
definitely changes its pace all the time. And then track three is also pretty solid. "Take a Chance on Me," which is a cover from ABBA, famous pop group.
Yeah, this is also
Yeah.
another one that's pretty good. So
Yeah, it's definitely nowhere near my favorite, but I do like it. I think they do like, or at least I don't remember who they brought on for it. A female vocalist.
Jewel,
Yeah,
She's-
featured Jewel.
she did a good job on that track for sure. I like the
Yeah.
additions that they added with because like even like most of these artists I either don't know super well or I don't like. Like I don't like Rise Against, but I think he did a good job on "Beds Are Burning." The guy that
Yeah.
does vocals for them. And then
Yeah.
track four was a great matchup because it involves two of my favorite modern bands, which, I mean, obviously Awolnation's the one that's doing the track, but they brought on Conor Mason from Nothing But Thieves, which I thought was a great addition to the track. And Maniac's
Definitely
really a great song.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely great.
Yeah. Also,
And I'm
like,
with these tracks because I know all of the songs on here, but Flagpole Sitta, I think, I don't know the original.
that's one of the more popular ones off of the album for original songs, actually. But
Right. But all the other ones I know the original, so I really appreciated like Maniac and all these ones that I really like the cover because I don't always like covers. Sometimes,
Right,
I've
yeah.
had
yeah. I mean, covers, like, the sad thing about it is, like, they're given really high expectations, so you have to either, like, live up close to it, beat it, which doesn't usually happen, or, like, not be a ton worse. Also, one thing I've noticed off of this album as I've gotten more into, like, enjoying it is, like, I definitely prefer the first half of the album to the second half. I mean,
Yeah,
technically,
I
there's
agree
11
with that.
tracks. Like, track 8, track 9, track 10, and 11 are all kind of weaker points on the album. I mean, the first 7 tracks are all really great for me, but, like, I don't know. They're just not as memorable tracks, and they just, yeah, but we're not there yet. So track 5, Just a Friend. I think this is
I
definitely a
didn't care for
unique
this song
take
that
on it.
much. It's definitely unique. Like, it's good still, but I don't know.
I like the piano in it. I think that's the
Yeah,
cool part. I mean,
I
obviously
wasn't a
that's
big
part of
fan
the
of this,
original, but
so. Also, the lyrics are kind of weird. It's a cover, like, that's no thing
I'm
with
just
them,
guessing
but
it's because it's a rap song. But like, if rap's done well, which Awolnation, when they do rap, which is not often, they do it well, except in one song, which we'll get
yeah,
up
like,
in the later.
it's definitely good, just I wasn't a big fan of this when I heard it.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
and
seem like something they would cover. It's it's by Biz Markie, so it's I think late '80s, early '90s.
what I was gonna say is like knowing the rap that he likes, he's not gonna pick something super recent because it's just too new to cover anyway. And then on that note, like a lot of like the like early rap stuff, which wasn't even that old, it's like 80s and 90s stuff, is really good. And I mean, he likes
True.
that kind of sound, more creative, and you can do more with it, which is why there's like piano instead of like just like a computer based beat rather than like he doesn't want to cover computer based beats.
Right.
Right.
So
No, I wouldn't either. There's no fun in that. So,
true.
yeah, it just seems like an odd choice for Awolnation to cover, just knowing who the original is by.
Right. And then track 6, I think most people know this song. It's by Madonna, Material Girl. I mean, it's not one of her most popular songs, but it's fairly
It's pretty
popular.
I like this one a lot, for
Yeah.
sure. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorites on the album, to be honest.
Both the original and the cover are pretty good, so I will say
Yeah,
that.
honestly, they're pretty equal for me, the original and the cover.
I just
don't
think
really have one
I think the
prefer
original
more.
beats it for some reason. Like Madonna, definitely like it works for her, and it
True.
works. However, I just
It
have
feels-
one comment. Singing guys, masculine guys singing "I'm a material girl in a material world." Just I don't know.
That is kind of
weird.
funny.
You don't expect it. It's funny, but like it doesn't really work.
I feel like it would be worse if they changed the lyrics, so it's a good decision they made. It would be worse
Like
if they...
they're not kids bop. Like
Yeah, they're not Kids Bop, so that's a good thing.
But yeah, Material Girl singing about it is a bit weird. It is her biggest hit, by the way, so that's kind of an interesting choice to cover.
Right.
But they decided to do a lot of different kinds of covers, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Right. And then track 7, I could tell this was them by the change of an intro. Also, fun fact about the song, Christoph played it when we were hanging out the other day or whatever, and Nick was like, "Oh, easy, wouldn't have changed Scorpions." But I could tell because Awolnation always has that little like quirk to them that you can tell it's them.
True, you
and
can
so I was kind
definitely
of just like, "Oh, it was Wind of Change by Awolnation,
It's
not
like,
the
you're
one by
close,
Scorpions."
but-
You're
mean,
close, but not
yeah.
that close. Sorry, bud. I mean, Nick doesn't know Awolnation as well as me and Christoph do, so I mean, we both knew that it was, the one by Awolnation, the cover, which I think is pretty good, but the one by Scorpions will always be better, I think.
That's
Just
definitely
very
true.
original.
Like, it's a cover. It's very good on its own. So
But I do
Right.
give it credit for how well it did, but the Scorpions version is just one of those where that's the definitive version. It doesn't really
for
matter.
sure.
Right, just a timeless classic.
And I mean, it was done at a specific time, too. It was done in 1990 with the fall of the wall, so it means a lot to the time of that era as well. So,
Right.
copy
Yeah.
that.
And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to mix track 8 and 9 together, even though they're probably not similar sounding. Is like, I just want to say these songs are not memorable, and like, even though Drive should be memorable because it's a semi-popular song by the Cars, I don't listen to the Cars because I don't like the Cars, so I don't even remember a damn word from this song, except I know it probably says Drive in it.
Yeah,
So,
I
I kind of like the Cars, and I
like
do know
them. They're pretty good.
They're pretty good.
I didn't even know it was a Cars cover because I knew a 6 a.m. cover of this song. And then,
Interesting.
and I really love that cover. Like, that cover is amazing. So this cover, it doesn't quite stack up to either the 6 a.m. cover or the original for me.
Drive.
Still good.
I like how it's kind of like chill. It's kind of like a chill song.
Also, the weird thing about this, like, I just remember, like, I was like, wow, this is on the album, that's weird, because, like, I remember this was actually released before any of these other songs.
They released
And I saw
Drive
it
as a single in 2019. You can find it on their singles list.
Exactly.
I mean,
that's
it
what
makes
I'm saying.
sense
It's
because
a
it
weird
is a
choice.
cover and they released it like a few years. I guess might as well put it on here.
Covers are the really well-known.
Right.
I mean, Wind of Change, Material Girl. I don't know if that was released as one, but most of the big covers seem to be released as singles.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Wind of Change was first, and then Beds Are Burning, and then I think Material Girl was third. I'm pretty sure. Well, Drive they released in 2019, but anyways.
Yeah. And then this. All right. My next take might offend people, but Flagpole Sitta. I know this song. The original's solid. However, this version I actually like significantly less than the original for one reason. This just feels like a very watered down approach to the original. Like it's like the original just has more energy and like look, I'm not all about being an energy person when it comes to music, but for this song, I feel like it needs that because then it just becomes really boring when they cover it. I don't really care for this.
I haven't
I think
listened to the
this comes
original,
in at
so I
last
don't
for
know.
me. Right, and I think the reason this comes in at last for all of us, well, especially for me, is like just over half of the songs I care for, and then the other half just not as much. I mean, I'm okay
Yeah.
with them. I don't mind listening to them.
So wild about this one either. It was definitely not one of my favorites.
Yeah, like my
Yeah, kind of
favorites are like
forgettable.
more popular songs. I don't care if that's cliche, but they're done better because they're more popular, so they're going to get more attention. Therefore, they have to be better so people don't shit on them. And then number track 11, final track, Alone Again. I honestly don't think this track is very memorable either.
It's
Like I
not.
said, the last half of the album, like
So
outside
it's
of maybe
alright.
Flagpole, Pulsita, and Wind of Change, are not really memorable.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a weird choice again for them to cover. It's a '70s song, and I
Right.
know they were a weird choice, and I don't think it worked for them.
Yeah. Like my take on this album is like it's obviously a good album. It's Awolnation, but it's kind of a mixed bag. Um, this is kind of like how would I compare this? I would compare it because I like comparing albums based on track listing and how many tracks they hit on. I'd compare this if this was a Van Halen album, it would be Diver Down, kind of. It's like
I
because Diver Down's kind of a
Hmm.
mixed bag as well. Good stuff and not so
can see
good
it.
stuff.
This one isn't as mixed a bag as that one, where the highs are really high and the lows are really low. But I could definitely see the comparison.
Right, because like the
Yeah.
highs on it aren't as high, but the lows on it aren't as low as Diver Down. But like, there's just I don't know. There's some tracks I really like on here, and then there's some tracks I don't. But I think that was kind of bound to happen since it's a covers album. I mean, you can't
That's
like
true.
everything. Not every song sounds the same.
Oh, and
Right.
the issue I think with this one too is that if I know 9 out of 10 songs before listening to it, that means those covers are probably pretty well known. So it's much harder to cover really well known songs, make it your own, and all that, which is why people often cover songs that aren't super well known to try and make it their own song. They can't make Wind of Change their song no matter how much they try because it's so well known. Material Girl, same
Right.
thing. So it's hard to ask to begin with to do.
Hmm. Overall thoughts, favorites, least favorites. Christoph, go first.
Favorite Beds Are Burning and least favorite either Alone Again naturally or Just a Friend.
Yeah, I kind of expected you to say one of those two songs. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. Mariah, same question to you.
Yeah, Beds Are Burning. I really liked Eye in the Sky. I liked their Material Girl and Wind of Change. I thought they were pretty good. Least favorite was Flagpole Sitta, which also happened to be the only song I didn't know the original to.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, okay, this is tough. For me, favorite is probably Beds Are Burning and then Maniac and then I don't know what else, but I'm not going to do more than two because I can't have the entire album be my favorites. I mean, I know it wouldn't
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
And then least favorites, it's a tie for me between probably Flagpole Sitta and Drive, those two. And then coming in at number four, definitely a significant step up, but not as good as the next three, in my opinion. This is their 2018 album, Here Come the Runts. This is the album that I was referring to when I was talking about kind of losing the sound. They retained it on some songs, but I feel like they lost their sound here. Not that that makes them this album bad, because I think this album is great personally, but I just think it wasn't as good as the other three because the other three retain the electronic sound, but they don't do it in the same way. Like the next three always have that a different electronic sound, but it still sounds like it was made by them, which I think is
Sure.
nice, and great bands can do that.
I mean, that's the thing. Bands
So
are just bound to change up their sound, and this is just one of those cases. Also, with this album, this definitely has some great songs I love on it, but it also has some forgettable songs too. That's why it's not higher.
right, I don't think there's as many forgettable songs as like some people have said. I think there's maybe like 2 to 3 maximum, but like other than
Yeah.
that, pretty solid. I think.
Right, it's not. It's definitely not among my favorites.
Yeah. Well, I know that every one of us put this at number 4, so.
Yeah, but even with albums, like, it's a mixed bag. I really like some. I really just forgot others existed. It's a definite fourth. Like, it's not going to be below the Covers album, but it's not going to be above Angel Miners either at all, for me.
Right.
I mean, the other thing is, like, the next thing that we're going to talk about here, like, there's not really, like, any, and if there are, maybe, like, 1 week track maximum on those albums, whereas this, like, has maybe, like, a couple max, so I don't think it tops the next 3 albums. That's kind of why it's here, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I still really enjoyed it, but it doesn't...
Yeah. I mean, I saw in an interview that Aaron Bruno, the frontman, was basically saying they were trying to go for more of, like, a classic rock sound, which I don't know if they obtained that exactly, but, like, it definitely sounds more, like, what?
I didn't really feel that. Like, I didn't feel like they were going for that. It just seemed like just something different, but I wouldn't have described it as a classic rock kind of
I
feel.
wouldn't really say that.
Well, I don't get to choose what he says in interviews. That's beyond me, but,
I'm not saying get to choose. I'm saying that's not what I...
Right. So going over the track list, they open up with title track, Here Come the Runts. Pretty good. They kind of ease you into the...
Yeah,
they still have the electronic. They still have the electronic mixing in there, which they do, which kind of gets lost a little bit throughout the album. But they kind of ease you into like not having it on this album by having it on the first track.
Right. I really enjoy this one. This one's very catchy. I can sing along to this one.
Great hard rocking. However, the only flaw in the song, even though I think it's a great song, is that it's a little repetitive. Basically, just
that's true. I still love this
shouting.
Song,
yeah, it's definitely nowhere near a favorite. Like, it's not in my top half of the album, but it is like it's not in the bottom.
It's one of my favorites.
Not my favorite for sure.
Yeah, and then track 2, Passion, I think is a lot better than the title track. Great song as well. Definitely pretty hard rocking. I mean, yeah, there's definitely songs in here that are hard rocking and some that aren't.
It wasn't my favorite. Apparently, it's one of the tracks with the highest number of streams on the album, on Spotify at least. And I didn't that great, but...
Well, that's the thing with Awolnation albums. A lot more often than not, like the super popular songs off of their albums aren't their best songs. While they're still good songs, they're not usually the best.
True. Handyman and Passion are the 2 big songs in streams for this album.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then track 3 is definitely one of the few weak points that I was talking about. Sound Witness System, just
I don't
weird.
Like this one very much.
It's a weird attempt at Aaron Bruno trying to rap. Like he doesn't even get
good,
like
honestly.
a rapper to rap on the track. Like in another track on another album that we'll talk about, he actually gets like a professional rapper to do the rapping, which sounds great. Here it just kind of falls flat on its face.
Yeah, I don't like this. It just feels off and just weird.
The end of it's okay because it redeems itself in the end, but like the first half of the song is just not good.
Yeah, this is my least favorite for sure off this album.
Yeah, I think
probably same.
Probably agree.
Well, favorite full length one. There's a 30-second one or something.
Yeah, that's not a bad track. It's just short. I mean, yeah. And then let's see. Track 4 is one of my favorites. Maybe my favorite
also
off of Miracle Man. I think
once again are a bit repetitive. Guitar definitely great. Still love this one though.
Yeah, this is definitely one of my favorites.
Same.
Yeah, very catchy, great guitar licks and riffs and everything great. Let's see, track 5, more of a ballad type song, at least compared to whatever came before that, because it's not as rocking, but it kind of gets there in the end. Similar to another song on the album, which will come up later. I mean, this is definitely another one of my favorites off of the album. Really nice acoustic, which turns into more rockin' at the end, which is cool.
Yeah, I love Handyman. It's definitely great.
This one's really good. I enjoyed this one.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah, true. Track 4 and 5 is definitely the strongest point of the album for me, because 2 of my favorite tracks back to back definitely helps after hearing Sound Witness System. Yeah. I
just love the acoustics in Handyman too. There's also an acoustic version. I mean, there's already acoustics in this, but a more stripped down version, and that's also really good. Right. Even though it's pretty stripped down and just pretty much just acoustic sounds, but it's still really good, which shows how good the song is. So.
True.
Yeah. I don't think this one ended up being a top favorite, but it's still pretty high up. I really liked it.
Yeah, Again, I think this is another one of the albums that they did where the first half is a little bit better because I mean the second half is still really good. I just would prefer the first half because there's shorter
Yeah.
songs in the second half, and some of my favorite songs, specifically Miracle Man and Handyman, are in the first half.
True.
And there's nothing weak in the first half outside of Sound Witness System.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
good.
and then track 6, Jealous Buffoon,
Love the song,
really great
for
song
sure.
as well. Yeah, the what's it called? The falsetto vocals definitely do really good in the song.
Yeah, definitely. Really good.
Track 7, 7 Sticks of Dynamite. So this actually is pretty interesting because this I used to really not like this song, but like it definitely grew on me, and now I probably say it's a really great song on the album. Definitely not one of my least favorites anymore. Probably working its way up as one of my favorites because again reminds kind of like a similar structure as Handyman, though probably not as good. Kind of like starts off really slow, also with some falsetto mixed in, and then kind of just at the end, kind of like more of their rocking sound. So it's a good progression.
I
Yeah.
like this.
It's
This
pretty
one-
good, but not a super big fan of it. Not one of my favorites. Still pretty good though.
Oh, it's alright.
Yeah, I mean, the more you listen to it, the more you like it. I mean, that probably goes with
Yeah.
any of their tracks, but like
Yeah,
especially this one.
Unless you really hated it to begin with, then it probably doesn't grow on you.
If
Well, I
you really
never
hate
hated
it, then
it.
if you hate a song and you listen to it more, you probably hate it more. So
Exactly.
Yeah, AJR.
Most you hear it grows on you more and more.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways.
And then to start off track 8, apparently like Aaron Bruno said that this track was included to be like kind of like an intermission after hearing like all of the like more rockin' tracks, which I understand because
That makes
sometimes like
sense.
with long albums, especially considering this is one of their albums that's 14 tracks, that makes sense. Also, I actually think this song, as short as it is, and like as weird as it is compared to anything else on the album, it's not really bad because there's nothing offensively bad about it. It's just
Yeah.
not as
Definitely
good
not
as like
bad.
the full length songs.
Yeah.
Like I'd say it's like an album intermission or whatever you want to call it. It works though. Just isn't a full length song, so I can't really put it as high.
Yeah, I get
No.
that.
Okay, it's 30 seconds. I mean, it's not supposed to be something wow, usually, if it's 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Right. And then track 9, the second half of the album definitely gets off on a strong note. Table for One, definitely one of my
Definitely
favorites
love
off
this
of the
one.
album.
This has
Yeah,
grown
very
on me a
good
lot
song.
for sure.
Same, like this one used to be not memorable for me, and now it's like very memorable.
Definitely one of my
So-
favorites on here.
I really
Yeah.
enjoy
Yeah.
Yeah, just
And
nice
then- Track 10, My Molasses, I think is also a really good track.
yeah, agreed.
I like the like vocal harmonies like in it like during the chorus, so I think that's a really cool part of the song.
Yeah.
Used to again not be super memorable of a song, but now it is. I mean, most of their songs are pretty memorable for me. Whether that's because they
Right.
repeat themselves too much in songs, I don't know. But
Hey. This one's not super memorable for me, but it's still a good one.
like I said,
Pretty
you
good.
haven't heard the album as much as I have, and this one was not memorable for me at the start either.
It's not one of the most memorable ones, though, for sure.
It's not. No. I only remember the chorus. I mean, well, I remember how the verses go, like the melody of it, but I don't know the lyrics as much.
Right.
And then track 11, like I know a lot of people like this track, but this is not one of my favorites off of the album at all. Like for full length
still love
tracks,
this
it's
one.
probably one of my I mean, I like it, but I don't love it. Like the lyrics are kind of stupid. It's like shoot like a cannonball, fuck like an animal. Like no thanks, I'm not gonna fuck like an
True.
animal.
That's
Okay,
a
no
bit
thank
weird.
you. Yeah, I just the lyrics almost are kind of ruining it.
But no, I was not a
I'd
fan of
still
this
say
one.
it's a really good song, though.
No,
Yeah.
it's good in terms of like instrumentation, but like lyrically, it's easily the worst track off of the album for sure.
Yeah.
It's not. Well, yeah. I wasn't. This is definitely one of my least favorites from the album.
Yeah.
It's in the top half for me, but not one of my top favorites. So I'd say that.
Okay, well, no offense, but like catchy doesn't mean good. This track is just not good. I know it's catchy, and that's why
No,
I
I'd
like
say
it.
it's
The only
good.
reason I say it's not. The lyrics are so bad.
Yeah.
Um,
True.
And then track 12, Tall Tall Tale's really cool. The instrumentals are definitely well placed here, and yeah. I don't have a ton to say about it other than that it's good, but it's a really
good,
great
kind
song.
of forgettable for me, but it's still good.
It's okay. It's just not super memorable. I've heard it a couple times and I don't really remember much of it. So
True.
Yeah.
And last two tracks down, we have the Buffoon, which kind of sounds like they were inspired by what's that song? Sunday Afternoon in the Park by Van Halen, almost. Like it has a similar feel to it.
there's definitely that. It's funny that they use the word buffoon in two different
I
songs.
know, in the
I
same album.
know.
It's kind of
I
fun.
It's
mean,
not.
they're easy to tell apart. Jealous Buffoon is the banger, like full length track, and this one's like the shorter than a full length, a little bit shorter than a full length track, kind of like an instrumental piece, which is not bad. Definitely nowhere near a favorite though for that reason.
It was just
That
funny how
would
they
that would be like if I said Sunday Afternoon is in the Park is one of my favorites off Fair Warning.
yeah,
Which
that would be
is not true.
because
Yeah, you
And
can't
that's actually
really
my
say
least
that.
favorite off Fair Warning, but anyway.
yeah.
Yeah. And then track 14, definitely I love this as an album closer. I think it works really well. It kind of
True.
the how do I put this? The construction of the song makes it the best song on the album, although it might not be my favorite. It's probably the best construction wise. 6 minutes runs over 6 minutes. Also, I think this is like the track that actually encompasses what Aaron Bruno's picture for the album was kind of to encompass the classic rock sound because there's definitely like guitar licks in the song early on, and then also like the vocals are like really screaming at the end. So it definitely is a great rockin' track. Definitely one of my favorites, but not like in my top three, obviously. But it's pretty good.
Right, definitely pretty good. I like the instrumentals. They really fit the song. It kind of feels like, a train rolling down the track.
Right, it's
Yeah.
like finally coming
know?
up for some more, and they kind of repeat that until they add in the guitar licks, and then they like do a bunch of other experimental stuff
Yeah.
within the song, which is
The
cool.
it's the album stopping. It's the album ending. So I really think
Right.
it works well with the end track.
Right, I mean
Yeah.
they've always had really great album closers, although this is probably not the best album closer they've done.
Nah. It's
Oh.
not.
I mean, we all know what that is. Nothing beats it, but we'll talk about that later.
The long track. No, it's definitely the best.
Yeah.
Favorites, least favorite.
Probably. Yeah,
Oh, right.
I almost forgot. Do you want to go first, Christoph?
Sure. I'd say favorites either Handyman or Table for One. I'd say, and then least favorites probably just the Buffoon if we're counting all tracks. Actually, no, Sound Witness System. Even for
I
a
was
short
like, how
track.
did you forget
Never
about
mind.
that?
Yeah, I forgot about it for a moment. Yeah, Sound Witness System was my least favorite.
Yeah. Mariah, same thing.
Yeah, so my favorite was Miracle Man, and I really also liked Table for One. I liked Here Come the Runts, Jealous Buffoon. Those are my favorites.
Nice.
Least favorite is kind of obvious. It's obviously Sound Witness System, and Cannonball was my second least, probably.
Yeah.
Buffoon.
And then from, what were you gonna say?
For the Buffoon, I don't know. Those are not favorites at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Most of the tracks on here aren't bad. The only ones I could say are bad is like maybe Sound Witness System and maybe Cannonball for the lyrics wise. Instrumentally, no though. So favorites and least favorites. Favorites probably Miracle Man, Handyman, Table for One, and then fourth favorite maybe Stop That Train. All pretty good tracks. And obviously, I like most of the album, other than those 4 songs too. And then least favorite, Sound Witness System, and then probably I'm debating whether the second worst is the Buffoon or Cannonball.
Yeah.
Ooh,
No,
probably Cannonball for the lyrics. Like it almost ruins the song. Like the instrumentals definitely save it though from being bad. It's not a bad song. No,
yeah, it's
definitely
not great. It's just eh.
Yeah. Overall, it's a pretty strong album outside its couple weak points, and I say weak as in like there's only one truly bad song on the album, Sound Witness System. The others are like okay to good, and then most of the songs here are still great. And this is a strong album, but it's not going to be above the 3 that come next, obviously. Coming in at number 3, it definitely takes a step up from the last 2 albums, although albeit I do like those albums. This is like where the top 3 are all like relatively kind of close. Although nothing's beating the number 1 spot. They're all pretty close, especially 2 and 3 here are really, really close for me. Um,
Yeah, agreed.
so track, well, any like overall thoughts or things you want to say? Not about tracks specifically, but the album as a whole.
Definitely
Like
love
not
this
about certain
album.
tracks.
It's just really good. It flows really well. All the tracks are really good. Very consistent, I'd say.
Right.
Well,
Flows well
obviously
while
not the
being
most
unique and
consistent,
like
but
and not like the same track. You're not hearing the same song
right,
every
right.
time, but it flows well still, which is,
Yeah,
I mean, really
it
great.
feels cohesive, whereas the other one kind of goes all over the place a little bit, and it doesn't
That's true.
really.
Yeah, true. I mean, honestly, all the top three are really cohesive. Not Runts though.
Yeah,
Runts is
yeah,
great,
not
but it's
runs.
not a
Not,
cohesive album. It's not like, yeah. So, going over the individual tracks, definitely a shorter album than the last one, 14 tracks, and also the ones in the top two also include the same 14 tracks. This one has 10 tracks, but there's nothing really bad on this album. There is one track I don't like as much as the others per se, but it's still a good song. Like,
I
there's
have a
nothing
feeling.
bad on this.
I have a feeling the one it's the same. We have the same one that's the
We
least favorite.
probably do. Yeah, so going into the tracks, track one, the best, definitely the best album opener
Really
by far
strong
that we've
start
ever
for
done.
sure.
Yeah, it's the hit
Yeah,
off of the
agreed.
album and definitely one of the best songs at least for
Yeah,
me.
I mean, it's
I
literally
mean, this
couple.
song is great. Right, definitely has like a nice 80s synth vibe with like and like but also like still sounding like Awolnation. I mean, they do that vibe well, but definitely still sounds like a song they make. So that's cool.
Hmm.
Yeah, awesome song.
I love this. I
Right.
love it for sure.
And then track number two, Slam, in parentheses, Angel Miners. Because apparently, I don't know, they wanted to have like a song called Angel Miners and Lightning Riders, which they do have one just called Lightning Riders later in the album. So this is supposed to be the Angel Miners, but the real name of it is Slam. This track is really nice. I think it has a really calming effect, like just like listening to it, because it's more slow, but definitely not any weaker than really any of the other tracks because of
Yeah,
it being
it's
slow.
not one of my favorites,
Yeah,
but
definitely
Well,
love
no,
it.
obviously not. But
Yeah,
it's definitely nowhere near the weak points of the album. If which there's nothing weak really, but
it's all right. It's a fine track, but there's nothing bad
yeah,
with
I
it.
like this one a lot too. Honestly, all of the tracks on this one I like a lot. But yeah,
same. Like, there's not a track I don't like or even think is okay. Like the worst tracks on the album are good, and the others are great. That's how
There's
I
a
describe it.
not really a fan of that. Every time I hear it, I'm like, I don't really like this one. But they're not bad. They're just not wild about them. But we'll get to
Yeah.
those.
Um. Yeah, and then track number three, Mayday Fiesta Fever. Really great energy on the song.
This is one of
Um.
my favorite ones. I really love this song.
awesome
Yeah.
song again.
Also, really great guitar licks as well on this song. It feels like a big party. Probably what they were intending, I'm guessing, but
Yeah, yes.
True.
really great.
Oh, I was just saying it's Fiesta Fever, so it should feel like a party, and it's a good
And
song.
it definitely does. So
Yeah. And then track four, another really good track here, Lightning Riders.
oh, I love
Probably
this
not the
too.
most memorable on the album, like because I mean that's not really a diss. All just other songs are more memorable to me.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, definitely a really good track though. I think.
It's very
Agree.
satisfying to listen to for some reason. For me, I don't know. It's
Yeah,
just really
like I've
good.
seen a lot of Awolnation fans be like, "Why do they do slower songs every album? They're not interesting. They're just really boring." And I'm like, "Can't you
That's
listen to
yeah.
calming music? That's not a good take."
Not everything has to be energetic and upbeat. Okay.
Track
Anyways,
five, another really great song. And this one's actually based off a real life experience, considering he lives in California, and he's basically talking about all the wildfires that burned his house down.
oh, that's
Basically, and considering this
interesting.
was made in 2020, that's very fitting, considering all the fires happening there, obviously.
I wasn't aware of that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Once
not cool
again,
that
I
his
love
house
this.
burned down, but
Yeah,
like,
that's
yeah.
not cool, but you know.
Yes, of course that's not.
No,
Just
but
that.
it's a cool song. Like, I think it goes really well because like the verses are really calming and nice, but then like the chorus is like really like upbeat and uh stuff, which is nice as
Yeah, I
well.
love synth in this track. Is awesome too.
California Halo Blue, that's one of my favorite songs off the album. I was listening to it the other day, and I love that song.
Yeah, this is Also, I just want to point this out as we're heading into the second half because that was a really good first half of the album. This actually might be their first album up on the list where I prefer the second half of the album because everything on the second half, outside of maybe one song, but like tracks 6 and 7, amazing. Tracks 9 and 10, amazing. Track 8, good. Like that's just how I take it.
Yeah,
I get that. I still take the first half though.
Yeah, I definitely.
Why? Because your favorite songs in the first half, mine is too. But like,
No, because
it's
I like overall. I like it better.
And all of the songs I'm not so wild about all fall within the second half. So.
No, y'all are like, I somehow knew you'd disagree with that, but like all the tracks are pretty strong outside of like maybe one song, which is
they're all strong, for sure.
I'm wild about 2 of the other ones, but we'll get to them, and I'll just tell you what they are. Get to them.
Well, from what I remember is when I recommended this album, you said it was your like second favorite, and I know that's not the case anymore. But like, wouldn't that mean like all the tracks are pretty good? But
no, because the really tracks make up for the ones that I'm not super wild about.
Well, honestly, there's nothing bad on the album. Like I don't.
Bad?
I still think they're all. I think they're all at least good.
Yeah, they're all good.
Yeah. Anyway,
I
Radical
just point.
is great.
I just want to point something out is like just because like the high points on this, which I mean there definitely is a decent amount of, are really really good. Doesn't make the other tracks weak in my opinion. That's just my take. I think all of them are at least good. Some not as good as others though. I'll agree with that, and that goes with every album ever. Like even the best of albums. I just don't think it's safe to say like, oh this is mid, not interesting, boring, because all the songs have their interesting points for sure.
Yeah.
Saying that they're not interesting, I'm just saying I'm not super wild about them. Not that they're bad or anything. It's just
and
not...
my point was like I could say that, but I would like if I was being honest with myself, I'd be talking about wild in comparison to the great tracks on the album. So, yeah.
What am I making? Anyway.
And then track 6, gets off kind of a similar start as track 1 with being a really great song. So track 6, Radical here. Really great song. Also, like once it hits the 1 minute and 45 mark, I mean, it's a great song at that point. I mean, it's great before, but like, I think the like slowed down part is really good because it reminds me of something they would have done on Run, which I mean, Run is like amazing, but so yeah, that's cool.
I really like
one of my favorites for sure.
Also, like the electronic part, like within like the verses, is really good, and then like the all-out rock part in the chorus matches well together. So that's cool.
Yeah. Also, the version featuring Grouplove is also I love that one a lot too. Honestly, I'd say it's slightly better than the album version personally.
Sure. Also, the
like,
guitar solo in this album,
really
like towards the end, is pretty good as well. Adds like a nice flavor.
True.
Yeah.
Let's see here. And then track 7, Battered, Black and Blue, pretty good track as well here.
This is one I'm not super wild.
I know, it's probably, I think I know why, too. It's probably like the vocals, which don't really hook you in at first. It's like, hole in my heart.
And I'm just not that wild about the lyrics. They're kind of repeating about got a bone to pick, like, over and over.
Yeah, that's fair. I think
that's understandable.
It's a little too much repetitive, and it does just... The track itself, the lyrics don't seem to go anywhere. They just seem to be the same track, and it just doesn't seem to go anywhere all that much. I mean, it's not bad. It's just...
Yeah. I mean, like, when reviewing an album, I think people, like, tend to, like crap on the songs that aren't as experimental, which kind of is, like, a fault of listening to, like, more... Not, I wouldn't say experimental music, because that's technically a genre of music, but, like, you know, like... Songs don't really, for me, need to be anything outstanding, wild in terms of song structure, although I do like those type of songs. I'm fine with just listening to something that's repetitive. Like, if it's good repetitive, that's okay. If it's bad, like, kind of just annoying, like, mixing, like, if it's AJR repetitiveness, it makes me want to die, but, like, Awolnation being repetitive does not annoy me. It's just not as good as, like, their more experimental stuff, obviously.
I agree. I don't mind when songs are repetitive. There are tons of songs I like that are really repetitive or have repeated. I just wasn't a fan of the lyrics much to begin with, and then they just didn't go anywhere. It's just like, okay.
Oh yeah, and that's another thing I was gonna say is like
this one just particularly stuck out to me as this is just kind of strange, but I mean, I listen to songs that the lyrics, it's like, okay, these lyrics kind of suck, but hey, the instrumentals are great, the song is fun, catchy, I enjoy listening to it. Lyrics
Yeah,
aren't
I
everything.
agree.
Just in
Yeah,
this
and to
bothered
be
me.
honest, I'm sure if this wasn't in like a review mode and it came on shuffle, you'd probably like semi enjoy it. Like it's just because we have to be kind of harsh on albums, just so we can like kind of get to the facts and not like oh my god, everything is amazing, everything is 10 out of 10, which is kind of a running joke with like bands. So
I hate this song. Like, this song is fine to listen to, there's nothing bad about it, it's just not to the level, I think, of the other ones, or even close to it.
that's kind of what I was getting at. Is like from a critical standpoint, no, I agree, it's not at that level because it's not one of my personal favorites, but it's still a good, solid track. Nothing offensive about it. It's
Oh,
not
no,
as good as the others, sure.
Yeah.
no. There's nothing bad about it. Just, it's one of the weaker songs on the album. To me, for sure.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also.
I could get behind that,
Yeah, I
but
like
it's
how.
not the weakest track. Because yeah, we have to get to that.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Dark is coming up next.
Can I also
Yeah.
say with this track, I like how it goes from like slow and calm to like a bit more energetic and upbeat and kind of like back
Yeah,
and
I like
forth.
that. Like, I like how
It's
they
kind
do
of
that
nice,
on like
like
a lot
in
of the
between.
songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then yeah, let me just say this about the second half. It gets off to a really strong start with Radical, and like even though I really like Battered, Black and Blue, albeit not one of my faves on the album, but track 8 is definitely by far, well, maybe not by far, but it is the weakest point of the album. I do like it because it's nice when Rivers Cuomo from Weezer's not involved, but once he gets involved, he's like in the he's just like so flatlined with his vocals. I mean, that's understandable. He's getting older, and also he was never a good singer in my opinion to begin with. But like,
Yeah.
it's not a bad track. I just think removing him would be a lot better.
Right. I'm honest. This one is one of the most streamed tracks on this whole album. Like, it's one of the most popular in streams on the album. I think it's third most popular in streams, which really surprises me because it's
I'm pretty
not.
sure it's
Surprising.
behind the best is probably easily the most streamed because I'm pretty sure it's the hit single off the album
Yeah,
or whatever.
Yeah.
and Mayday and Mystic Fever are the only two that top it in terms of
True.
streams.
Also, the interesting thing for this album is I would actually say this is like their only album where like actually the popular song is one of their better songs on the album rather than like say something with like Run or Megalithic Symphony. The popular song is probably like the worst song on the album, but we'll get into that
True.
later. Yeah, also I think that way the album ends really kind of is why I like the second half so much. Like this duo is really great because it's like creative on both ends. Both songs are creative in very different ways. Half Italian has this really nice atmosphere to it, which I think is rare because not all their songs do. And then also at the end, it gets more experimental and has some great drumming mixed in, which is awesome, obviously.
Agreed.
Definitely one of my favorites off the album for sure. Not my all-time favorite on the album, but it is one of my favorites. Really great track. And then this is also a great album closer. It's kind of a similar structure to how "Stop That Train" is, which I obviously like the structure of both of these songs. It starts out really slow, and honestly, the first line, like I was like, why does he sound like the singer from Death Cab? Like that vocal line and the like, this first vocal line sounds like that, but after that, it's obviously Awolnation. No, but it's a great track, and then also the ending is so great with like the like guitar, like hard rock, almost metal-esque riffs. I mean, really great.
True.
Yeah, sounds good. It's not my favorite, but it's really good.
It's one of my favorites just because the ending is like so epic. But I mean, it's not my all-time favorite on the
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So overall, pretty strong album. Nothing bad. There was stuff bad on the last album, which we already discussed.
Yeah.
So favorites and least favorites. Christoph.
For favorites, I'd say the best in Radical, and least favorite. I'm not sure. They're all really close for me, so I don't really have one.
Yeah, that's true. Like none of the songs typically, maybe one for me stands out as being a weak point, but like other than that, no, not really. So
Yeah.
next up, you can go now.
Yeah. Favorites were California Halo Blue, The Best, Mayday, and Half Italian. And probably
Yeah.
Radical.
Yeah,
Least
that's the
favorites
nice
are
thing is like. Oh, you can go. I was just about to.
Least favorites are Battered, Black, and Blue, and definitely Pacific Coast Highway in the movies is my least favorite. It just doesn't quite work as well as the other ones for me.
Yeah. I will say though, like the good thing about this album is like pretty much half of the album can contend as a favorite, which I think we kind of both pointed out here.
Mm.
And the other half, while might not contend for favorite, is not bad. It's still very good and even great, but not contenders for favorites maybe. So yeah, favorite tracks, there's a couple I could say. The Best, Radical, Half Italian, and then maybe I'm a Wreck or Mayday, Fiesta, Fever, one of the two. I love all those tracks. Nothing weak on this album, but if I had, I mean, weaker, but not weak. There's a difference between weaker and weak. Weaker is like weaker for the album, but weak is like significantly standing out in the band's catalog is bad. So this is not one of my least favorite tracks by them, but Pacific Ohio is in the movies. And you know what? This song would be better if you don't take out Rivers' shitty vocal lines, which I don't like, but it's okay. It's not my thing. And yeah. Yeah. Overall, very solid album. I just think the flow of the next album pushes it barely over this one, but we'll get into that.
I agree with you. I think
not that this album doesn't have great flow. This album has great flow. The other one just has slightly better flow. That's really where it pushes it over the top. But I don't think it's much better than this album. I mean, both are great.
No, something has to be one. Something has to be something has to be two. Something has to be three. So it's just the way it ends up.
True, I agree with that.